Disney's newest ship is about to make maritime history, and I'm not talking about pixie dust. In February 2026, the Disney Adventure will become the largest passenger vessel by both capacity and gross tonnage to ever transit the Panama Canal. That's a genuine engineering achievement wrapped in mouse ears, and it tells you everything about Disney's ambition with this vessel. At 208,000 gross tons and carrying around 6,000 passengers at full capacity, this ship represents the biggest addition to the Disney Cruise Line fleet. But here's what makes it truly different from every other Disney ship currently sailing. This one was never meant to be a Disney ship at all. The Disney Adventure began life as the global dream, with construction starting on March 8, 2018. That project was suspended in January 2022, and Disney swooped in to acquire what would become their largest floating resort. The ship completed sea trials, went through delivery, and is entering service in 2025 with a maiden voyage set for March 10. She's based in Singapore, running short 3- and 4-night voyages, which is a completely different deployment strategy than Disney's typical Caribbean and Mediterranean itineraries. With 20 decks and over 2,000 staterooms, this ship is designed to handle volume while maintaining the character-driven experience Disney guests expect. The crew count sits at 2,500, which gives you a sense of the service ratio Disney is maintaining even on this massive vessel. One of the most striking accommodations on the Disney Adventure is the Anna Royal Suite, and this is where Disney's approach to premium family cruising really shows itself. This suite includes a full living room and a dining area complete with a bar, giving you actual entertaining space rather than just a place to sleep. The main bedroom is separate from a dedicated kids' room that features bunk beds, acknowledging that families want proximity without everyone staring at each other in one open space. 2 en-suite bathrooms mean you're not negotiating shower schedules with your teenagers, and that alone might be worth the premium for some families. The extended veranda comes with a whirlpool, so you can sit outside after the kids are asleep and actually relax with a view. This is not a token balcony with 2 chairs crammed against a railing. It's designed for families who want resort-style space while at sea, and the layout reflects real thought about how families actually use a suite over several days. For guests who want a balcony experience without the Royal Suite price tag, the Deluxe Garden View Veranda Stateroom offers something genuinely different. The Garden View designation ties into one of the ship's signature spaces, the Disney Imagination Garden Atrium. This central gathering space features a storybook castle and a sorcerer's apprentice Mickey topiary, creating a visual anchor that gives the interior a sense of place. Having a veranda stateroom that looks onto this themed space rather than the ocean is an unusual approach, and it will appeal to guests who prioritize Disney theming over endless water views. These staterooms give you outdoor space and fresh air without requiring an exterior hull position, which also means they're likely more stable in rough seas. For families with young children who want a balcony but worry about seasickness, this could be a smart compromise. The ship also offers standard inside, ocean view, and balcony cabins across those 2,000-plus staterooms, though specific details about those categories aren't fully documented yet. What's clear is that Disney is working at a scale they've never attempted before. Managing over 2,000 staterooms means managing thousands of families simultaneously, and the ship's layout and service model have to account for that volume without feeling like a crowded theme park on a summer Saturday. Since detailed dining venues aren't confirmed in the available information, we can't walk through specific restaurants by name or menu. What we do know is that Disney is bringing retail experiences to the dining and entertainment mix in ways they haven't done before at sea. The World of Disney shop is making its debut at sea on this vessel, which is a significant move. On land, World of Disney stores are sprawling retail destinations with extensive merchandise across all Disney properties and characters. Translating that to a ship environment means families will have access to a much wider range of products than the typical cruise ship gift shop. You're looking at dedicated sections for different franchises, exclusive at-sea merchandise, and the kind of shopping experience that can easily become a destination in itself for collectors and Disney enthusiasts. There's also a Duffy and Friends shop, which signals Disney's awareness of their Asian market audience. Duffy the Disney Bear and his friends have a massive following in Asia, particularly in Japan and Hong Kong, and dedicating shipboard retail space to this character line shows Disney is tailoring the adventure to its Singapore home port. This isn't a ship designed for the Caribbean and then dropped into Asia. It's being positioned with regional preferences in mind from the start. The National Geographic Store is another retail edition, and it connects to Disney's broader portfolio since they own National Geographic content. This gives the ship an educational and exploratory angle beyond the pure entertainment focus, and it's a smart way to offer products that appeal to adults and older kids who might not be shopping for plush toys. While we don't have confirmed details on the pool deck layout, we know this ship is designed to handle around 6,000 passengers, which means outdoor space is going to be at a premium during peak times. Disney's other ships have featured dedicated adult pools, family pools, and splash areas for young children, and it's reasonable to expect similar zoning here given the family focus. The sheer size of the vessel means there's physical space for multiple pool environments, but how Disney manages crowding during short 3- and 4-night sailings will be critical. Short cruises tend to pack ships to capacity because guests aren't committing to a full week, and that can mean competition for deck chairs and pool access during sea days. One of the most talked about features on the Disney Adventure is something you don't typically find on a cruise ship, a roller coaster. The Iron Cycle Test Run is Disney's first ever coaster at sea, and it's themed to the Marvel Universe. This is not a gentle family ride. It's designed to deliver actual thrills, with a track that takes you around the upper decks of the ship with open views of the ocean. The engineering required to safely operate a roller coaster on a moving vessel is significant, and Disney is betting that this will be a marquee attraction that sets the adventure apart from every other ship in their fleet. For families with older kids and teens, this could be the single feature that makes this ship the preferred choice over Disney's other vessels. Alongside the coaster, you'll find PIM Quantum Racers and Groot Galaxy Spin, both tied to the Marvel Universe. PIM Quantum Racers suggests a competitive racing experience, likely interactive and themed to the Ant-Man franchise given the PIM Technologies reference. Groot Galaxy Spin sounds like a spinning ride, probably aimed at younger guests who aren't ready for the intensity of a coaster but still want something more dynamic than a carousel. Disney is clearly building out a theme park experience at sea, and these attractions are designed to give families reasons to stay on board rather than focusing entirely on shore excursions. The Marvel theming extends beyond rides. The Marvel Style Studio offers superhero makeovers, which is Disney's version of character transformation experiences. Kids and teens can get styled as their favorite Marvel characters, complete with costumes, makeup, and photo opportunities. This is a revenue generator, but it's also a genuine experience for fans who want to immerse themselves in the universe. There's also an adults-only Marvel Lounge, which is a smart acknowledgement that Marvel's fan base isn't just children. Adults who grew up with these characters and continue to follow the films want spaces where they can enjoy the theming without competing with kids for seating. For younger guests, the Bibbidi Bibbidi Boutique serves ages 3 to 12, offering princess and prince makeovers in the classic Disney style. This has been a staple at Disney parks for years, and bringing it to sea gives families the same experience without needing to book a park day. The boutique is a dedicated space with trained stylists, and it's designed to make kids feel special in a way that goes beyond face painting at a kids' club. The ship also features live entertainment, including Duffy and the Friends Ship Show and Captain Jack Sparrow and the Siren Queen Pirate Show. The Duffy Show ties back to that Asian market focus, giving guests familiar with those characters a live performance experience. The Pirate Show leans into Disney's Pirates of the Caribbean franchise, and it's likely a high-energy production with stunts, music, and audience interaction. These aren't passive stage shows. Disney's theatrical productions at sea tend to involve elaborate sets, special effects, and performers who can handle the unique challenges of performing on a moving ship. One quirky detail, the ship has 4 funnels, which is unusual in modern cruise ship design. Most contemporary vessels have 1 or 2 funnels, streamlined for efficiency and aesthetics. 4 funnels give the Disney Adventure a more classic ocean liner profile, and it's a deliberate design choice that sets the ship apart visually when you see her in port. There's also a note that the ship's captains are described as stern characters, which suggests Disney is building personality and storytelling even into the command structure. Whether that means captains who play a role in onboard entertainment or simply a more formal, old-school approach to shipboard authority isn't entirely clear, but it's an interesting detail that hints at Disney's commitment to theming every aspect of the experience. Specific spa and wellness facilities aren't detailed in the available information, but given the ship's size and Disney's track record, you can expect a full-service spa with treatment rooms, a fitness center, and likely some wellness programming. What we don't have are specifics on treatment menus, square footage, thermal suites, or any unique wellness features that would set this spa apart from others in the fleet. Similarly, while we know the ship is family-focused and includes kids programming like the Babidi Boutique and Marvel-style studio, detailed information about age-specific kids clubs, teen lounges, and supervised activity schedules isn't confirmed. Disney's other ships have extensive youth programs divided by age group, and it's safe to assume the adventure will follow that model, but without specifics, we can't walk through what each age group will experience. The Disney Adventure operates 3- and 4-night voyages out of Singapore, which is a completely different itinerary structure than Disney's week-long Caribbean cruises or longer European sailings. Short cruises appeal to families who want a taste of the Disney cruise experience without committing a full vacation week, and they're also easier to combine with land-based Singapore attractions or other regional travel. However, the available information doesn't specify which ports of call the ship visits or what shore excursions are offered. Singapore itself is a major destination with world-class attractions, dining, and shopping, but without confirmed port stops, we can't detail what a typical itinerary looks like beyond the home port. Let's be honest about what we don't know and what that means for your planning. This ship is entering service in 2025, and as of now, there are no guest reviews on Cruise Critic or TripAdvisor. That means we don't have real-world feedback on service quality, food consistency, cabin noise levels, or how well the ship handles the volume of guests during peak sailings. New ships often have teething problems, and the first few months of operation can involve adjustments to everything from restaurant staffing to entertainment schedules. If you're booking an early sailing, you're essentially a beta tester, and that comes with both excitement and risk. The ship's history as the global dream also introduces some unknowns. Disney acquired a vessel that was designed and partially built by another company with a different vision. While Disney has clearly put their stamp on the theming and entertainment, the underlying infrastructure, cabin layouts, and public space design were influenced by the original concept. That's not necessarily a negative, but it does mean this ship may feel different from Disney's purpose-built vessels like the Wish or the Fantasy. Another consideration is the sheer size. At around 6,000 passengers, this is a high-volume operation, and Disney has never managed a ship of this scale before. Embarkation and disembarkation can become bottlenecks on large ships, especially during short turnarounds. Dining reservations, show seating, and access to signature experiences like the roller coaster may require more planning and advance booking than you're used to on smaller Disney ships. If you prefer a more relaxed, spontaneous cruising style, the Adventure's size and passenger count could feel overwhelming during peak times. What makes the Disney Adventure genuinely unique is the combination of scale, theming, and regional positioning. This is the largest ship Disney has ever operated, and it's the first Disney ship purpose-deployed to Asia with features tailored to that market. The Iron Cycle Test Run roller coaster is a legitimate first for the cruise industry, and it represents Disney's willingness to push beyond traditional cruise ship entertainment into true theme park territory. The Marvel theming is more extensive than on any other Disney ship, with dedicated attractions, makeover experiences, and an adults-only lounge that acknowledges the franchise's broad appeal. The retail experiences, particularly the World of Disney Shop making its debut at sea, signal that Disney sees this ship as more than just a floating hotel. It's a destination retail and entertainment complex that happens to move between ports. For Disney collectors and fans, that's a significant draw. For families who want a shorter cruise that still delivers a full Disney experience, the 3- and 4-night itineraries offer a compelling option that doesn't require a week-long commitment. The ship's record-breaking Panama Canal transit in February 2026 is another unique element. At 6,700 passengers and 208,000 gross tons, the Disney Adventure will be the largest vessel by capacity and tonnage to make that journey. That transit will likely be a special itinerary in itself, offering guests a chance to experience one of the world's most impressive engineering feats from the deck of a record-setting ship. It also opens up the possibility of future repositioning cruises that take advantage of the ship's ability to move between oceans, though no specific plans beyond the 2026 transit are confirmed. Disney's decision to base the Adventure in Singapore rather than a traditional North American or European home port is a strategic move that reflects where the company sees growth in the cruise market. Asia's middle class is expanding rapidly, and demand for premium family travel experiences is increasing. By offering short, accessible cruises from a major Asian hub, Disney is positioning itself to capture guests who might not travel to the Caribbean or Mediterranean for a cruise, but will absolutely book a long weekend sailing from their own region. The ship's design, with its 4 funnels and classic profile, gives it a visual presence that stands out in modern cruise terminals dominated by sleek, streamlined megaships. That nod to ocean liner heritage, combined with cutting-edge attractions like a roller coaster, creates an interesting tension between nostalgia and innovation, and it's a balance Disney has always tried to strike in their theme parks. Whether that balance works as well at sea is something early guests will help determine. For families considering the Disney adventure, the key question is whether the ship's unique features, particularly the Marvel attractions and the coaster, justify the likely premium pricing and the logistics of traveling to Singapore. If you're based in Asia or already planning travel to the region, the adventure offers a genuinely different Disney cruise experience that you can't get on any other ship. If you're traveling from North America or Europe, you'll need to weigh the cost and effort of getting to Singapore against the appeal of being among the first to experience Disney's most ambitious ship. Either way, the Disney adventure represents a significant evolution in what a Disney cruise can be, and it's worth watching how the ship performs as it enters service and begins building its reputation.